Good soldiers follow orders. To anyone who's watched The Clone Wars or The Bad Batch, that line has become iconic, despite appearing in fewer episodes than I recall. But is there a hidden meaning behind the phrase? I think there is, so I went back to look at every time the line has ever been delivered to try to find out. First and foremost, the line is, of course, a storytelling device for the audience. Having a clone repeat, "Good soldiers follow orders," is a simple and chilling way to illustrate to anyone watching that the clone is now under the control of the inhibitor chip. They are no longer themselves. But not every clone that falls under the spell, so to speak, of Order 66 says the line. Why do only some clones wind up saying it? Basically, I believe a clone might deliver the line when he is specifically fighting his inhibitor chip. He knows something weird is going on, and maybe the chip can sense resistance in the clone and makes the clone repeat, "Good soldiers follow orders," to break through that resistance. The first time any clone says, "Good soldiers follow orders," is when Tup's chip malfunctions and he murders Tiplar in Season 6. He seems lucid for a time, but then grows increasingly erratic when he tries to grapple with what he's done, repeating the phrase over and over until his eventual death. As the first clone to prematurely execute Order 66, he must have sensed something odd was happening, and then in the aftermath he was unable to deal with his actions and just goes haywire, and saying the line might be like some feeble attempt of the chip to calm him down. The times Wrecker says "good soldiers follow orders" is the strongest case I think I have for this theory. As a member of the Bad Batch, his mutations caused his chip to be less effective, but several bumps to the head make him more and more susceptible to its control. Every time he says "good soldiers follow orders," I think it comes across as him actively trying to fight the chip, especially when the chip finally does activate and he's got a blaster pointed at Omega. The last thing he says before being stunned is, "Good soldiers follow orders," and I'm basically imagining Wrecker being stuck inside his own brain screaming "no" because he obviously doesn't want to hurt Omega, and instead of that despair, we hear the line instead. And of course, we have to talk about Crosshair as well. He starts saying the phrase in the first episode of The Bad Batch. As his chip is activated, he continues to work for the Empire, becoming more and more entrenched in the new regime. He says it while he's hunting Kanan, he says it while he has his headaches on Kamino, he says it when he executes one of his own soldiers on Onderon, and so on. He says it a lot, especially early in the season. There are still signs that show Crosshair is dealing with the chip, rubbing his head and everything like that. But he does prove by the end of the first season that his chip has been removed, and he's mostly just upset that his brothers never really gave him the benefit of the doubt. He still seems more interested in staying with the Empire rather than joining the rest of his crew, but I think his repetition of the phrase is more of a coping mechanism where he knows something is wrong, but instead of fighting his orders so much, I think he's trying to convince himself that he's right and the rest of the Bad Batch is wrong. Admittedly, I think Crosshair is the outlier in this theory. And there are other times in the Clone Wars where I think it would have been very appropriate for someone to say "good soldiers follow orders" if this theory is correct, like Rex pointing his blasters at Ahsoka with tears running down his cheeks. But in his case, I think he knows exactly what's happening. He's still fighting the chip, yes, but I think he also has enough clarity to give Ahsoka more information about Fives to help her understand and figure things out. Anyway, that's our theory, or headcanon, just an extra detail Molly and I discussed together back when Wrecker was fighting his chip for a few episodes in The Bad Batch. So what do you think? Is there anything more to "good soldiers follow orders," or is it meant to be a signal to the audience and nothing more? Let us know in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.